I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in Season 2, Episode 6 of The Last of Us series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to HBO Max, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, join in with me to break down everything from Season 2, Episode 6 of The Last of Us series. It's Jon Jon Rico.
Hello.
Hello.
How we doing?
I am so confused because I don't know when we're going back to HBO Max versus Max.
Well, we're going back, though, and that's a good thing. We were all calling it that anyway. I just like that, like people like rejected and like Max. Oh, just Max. That's stupid. And they're like, you know what? They don't like it as much. Let's just go back to HBO.
Anyway, The Last of Us.
Yeah.
So all the things happened in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Okay. There's so much to get to. And there's so much, like, we've already started talking about, so much we want to talk about and everything like that. But there's just one thing that I had to talk about first. And that is we have figured out the greatest thing about the apocalypse. Now, there's not too much about like the apocalypse or the fallout of like a zombie apocalypse or a virus apocalypse type of thing. But one redeeming thing that we can look forward to if it ever happens in real life is you can pretty much steal anything you want. And just, the world is your playground. If you want to go hang out in a space capsule, if you want to break and steal helmets like from astronaut displays, you can do whatever you want. You can climb on top of T-Rexes if you want to.
Yeah, boundaries are kind of gone in certain aspects when it comes to the apocalypse.
But I was just, when I was watching that, I was like, oh man, I wish it was apocalypse and I could just like play with spacesuits and stuff like that.
You know what, for a pop culture reference, what it reminded me of is when they in Zombieland, when they get to Bill Murray's mansion, they're just enjoying the spoils of like their rich home life there for a couple of days. It's just like, if you're going around, walking around this kind of like apocalyptic world, there's going to be some pretty cool shit that's been left around. That no one's really looking after anymore.
Yeah, no one gives a shit about it.
I was thinking the same thing there in this scene, like going through the museum, like, look at all the cool shit you can just go through, and no one's being like, hey, don't touch that. You can't go near that. And it's just like, you can open up the space capsule and just sit in it. I did think though, like, what if it just the door just shut on them and they couldn't get out?
I literally had the exact same, like, just a moment of fear. I was like, I don't know if they're supposed to be able to open those.
Like, I imagine Joel took like the precautions and make sure, like, if they needed to, they can get out of it. But just to give that immersion feel for it. But I was just like, that'd be really like a shitty way to go. Be like, yes, I got this really cool moment, but like, oh damn, we're stuck here. Like, I would think,
like, tell people where you are, and if you're not back in 24 hours, like, come and get you type of thing. But
like, if you're in the DC area, like, go to like the Smithsonian and go see some of like the secret stuff in there, and like, or hey, go to Area 51 now. There's no one looking out there now, right?
Yeah,
like, that'd be some of the first places I think to go to, like some of all the super secret places.
Yeah, you can basically do. You can like play with the space rocks. You can you can do anything you want. Like, I want to touch the dinosaur bones. Like, just freaking do it. Like, anything you want.
It'd be a fun like side plot to be like someone went to Area 51, but it's still like one of those like fortified areas too. But there's still like a cool little side plot. You could just go somewhere with that. Like, oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
We need to, this is a series that's just asking to be
written. I'm writing ideas right now as we're talking.
Like, it's just like this goofy series that, just kind of plays up on all of the stereotypes of apocalypse shows, but it's like them, and every episode is just them doing something that, like, the brighter side of the apocalypse, basically.
The
They're
light,
not worried
the
about
last man on
survival.
Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Very similar
Yeah,
to that,
yeah.
but the whole series is just them doing like all of the things we're talking about, just
Going to
random
crazy,
places.
insane locations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
absolutely. An
just to say that you
exploration.
did it. Exactly.
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go. Perfect.
absolutely. Anyway, The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Rico, some of your instant reactions for episode 6.
Yeah, this to me was probably the best episode of the season by far. Again, I comparing it to like a Star Wars TV show, like if Dave Filoni is directing an episode with like Ahsoka or something like that, like there's going to be an elevation of quality just because of the way they know the source material. Well, that's like this episode here when it comes to Neil Druckmann being at the director's chair of this one, and it definitely comes into play for a lot of the scenes that come in here. There's a lot of big key flashback scenes that happen that are pretty much directly ripped from the game. Even like from a shooting perspective, like they're even shot the same way as they are in the game too, which is really cool when you see like the side by side comparisons of the game and the show on TikTok or something like that. It's pretty much like nailed perfectly too. So I think that was really cool. As I'm watching so many scenes, I just really felt like I was back in that world of playing the game, which I thought was great. And yeah, both Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey were just phenomenal in this episode. I just thought like one just kind of brought back that feel of watching the two of them together in the season one, just the whole season one arc between those two. And especially because we haven't gotten as much as that with this whole season because just the way the whole story is played out, of course. But just to get like this kind of final hoorah episode from Pedro Pascal as Joel, I feel like was just like really, really well done. If this is indeed like his last episode as Joel, it just felt like a nice little wrap up
Yeah.
for his character because obviously they took a lot of flashbacks that happened at different points in the game and just kind of like melded them all into one more of a chronological storytelling order here. So I thought that was really cool. And but yeah, because like obviously like the porch scene itself is like one of the last scenes we get in the entire game. So the fact that we're getting it here kind of gives that kind of a to me signifies that we might not get many more scenes unless the original scenes, I guess, that are written into the show in the next season with Pedro Pascal as Joel. So, and I guess if we do get them, they'll be like nice surprises. Like they won't really tease them to us, I think, or anything like that. But yeah, I just thought they nailed it. All the scenes again, the flashback scenes that were some of my favorite parts of the game. I thought they did almost near perfectly, if not perfectly, and even some of the new stuff they added was really great as well.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that leads perfectly into one of my pretty much my takeaway. So you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick off big takeaways with just like I said, perfectly leads right into that. Happy 15th birthday, Eli.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Seth.
yeah. Just like you were saying, those flashbacks in chronological order were really awesome and just gave more life into kind of their backstory of all the years that we kind of skipped over with the start of the second season,
Right.
kind of having a jump ahead. But what they really did, and this is something we are used to because we've been recapping Andor season 2, where we do get these chunks and then we get a year time jump and then we get a chunk and then we get another year time jump and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's how they did this in this episode, so it was like, I was like, am I watching the wrong show? Like right now, because of the way the exact same way that they did this. But the underlying thing of this was really like, yes, they were showing us, flashback scenes we have seen from the game and which were awesome. Don't get me wrong at all. But they were really like showing the like pinpoint moments of like impactful moments of Joel and Ellie's relationship changing over time, like parent and child to like adult and young adult type of thing. We have this progression, and you can really see it. And it we didn't need a full season of that because of the way they did this, and I think they did it very perfectly to really show that because we've all done it. We've grown up. And you can be a dick like when you're hitting your teens into upper teens and stuff like that to your parents and stuff like that. So like we saw that. We got examples of that in this where you saw the relationship kind of shift from like I said, from parent and kid to kind of adult and young adult type of thing. And you really see that progression in a short amount of time. I think they really, they successfully did that, is my point. And it made the scenes that they did show that much more impactful, because we were able to kind of see how that changed. And then, we get like you were saying, we get the revisiting of the porch scene, and we kind of see, how that, we kind of see that from a different perspective also, because we get
an extended version of
it. We get an extended amount of that scene, but then we also see kind of, the moment we've kind of been waiting to see, because we've been talking about that, the scene where, we have Ellie really have her suspicions confirmed.
Right.
But we also see a side of Ellie where, she is an adult, because she's like so angry at Joel in that moment. But she also shows maturity by saying, I really do want to try to forgive you. Like, I don't know if I can, but I really want to. And that is a very mature statement to say. So you can really see, that progression of her actually growing up in the short amount of times and the short amount of scenes that we get of all those flashbacks in those time jumps and stuff like that, to go from, a little kid to an adult that can have a very mature thought of that. Like, this is, she thought that was her life purpose, and she does not want to forgive Joel, but she really like wants to try to type of thing. And that's like a real mature growth and stuff like that. So it's just, I took so much from that in so little amount of time that like, that's why like this was kind of my biggest kind of takeaway from that in an episode, like you said, was incredible. Like, everything about this episode I thought was awesome. So it doesn't take away from any of the other parts of this episode, but I just thought they did that progression of how they did the scenes and how they did, the actual impactful moments of each, year, and strung them together like that to the, the natural ending of pretty much their last time, they're together before Joel's death scene.
Their last conversation.
Yeah. So it was, it really had that big impact in such a short amount of time. So I just, it was a lot. I just thought they really did that so well. But Rico, what were some of your big takeaways from episode 6?
So I'm gonna go kind of like in order of which these all kind of happen within the episode. So the beginning of the episode obviously starts with a new flashback that's not in the game. It's a young Joel and Tommy, but Tommy's a little bit afraid that he's gonna get in trouble and kind of get the punishment from his father, and Joel's basically telling him like, I'm not gonna let that happen. And then we see Tony Dalton playing Joel and Tommy's father, which I think is really cool because one, we know him as Jack from Hawkeye and recently in Daredevil and stuff, and I know him as a Lalo from the Better Call Saul series as well. Just a really cool actor, and I think just having him as Joel's dad just is like a really good casting in my opinion, because I can see him being like a Pedro Pascal father, kind of a thing like too if you're doing like kind of a generational casting. But also it's really cool like Naughty Dog casting too, because he's actually going to be in Neil Druckmann's next game to the Heretic, cool. The Intergalactic Prophet, or Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, I think it's called. Which is where the girl that plays Nora is also like the main character of that as well too. So they've been doing like these fun little cameo castings for like the next Naughty Dog game within this show too. So I think it's really cool to kind of like, I think for Neil Druckmann just be like, hey, I have you for this game. Want to come do a little cameo role in Last of Us? For them, I'm like, dang, that's really cool. So I love seeing that, and I love that whole conversation between him and Joel and his dad when it just comes to how it's all about just doing better than the previous generation before you, right? Like he talks about how his dad his dad talks about how like his mom used to kind of punish them a lot more in a violent way as well. So he goes, at least I'm not doing that. Like I'm not doing what used to happen to me. I feel like I'm doing a better job than what was done before, right? And I feel that's a very relatable issue for a lot of parents too when they see stuff like that. All you can do is just do better than what you were kind of brought up with, right? Like that's where you learn from, and those are the lessons that you take, and that's how you kind of improve better on going forward for the next generation, right? Yep. So I thought that was really cool because of how it plays into the whole. It plays into the conversation on the porch too, because at the end of the day, Joel kind of he mirrors the same words to Ellie the same day. Like, I just hope I did a better job, basically, than what he's like, what he learned from his father too. So I thought that was a really cool kind of character moment to kind of show the kind of generational like passing on of just certain characteristics that go on in families. So yeah, just a great scene there. The museum scenes I thought were just perfect. To me,
Yeah.
that's my favorite part of the second game is just that whole museum kind of adventure part. To me, it's like the giraffe scene in the first game, where it's just kind of like this like nice happy vibe of like the whole game because we're just having a good time celebrating some cool stuff. You know, Ellie's getting to learn some pretty cool things that she kind of missed out on when because she obviously wasn't even born yet during like that the real world aspect of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just like seeing like this kind of like well, both characters just kind of be happy and just kind of like enjoying each other's company in this museum. I just thought it was really cool from Ellie climbing the dinosaur to again, yeah, even just like the small minute things like where they make you feel like the player with Ellie looking after each helmet to pick one, like you said, you know, and then she chooses one and gets it. I remember playing in the game when you would just walk by window and it would just be like, "Ooh, which one am I gonna grab?" Like, "Oh, okay." And then you do the same thing. You just throw a rock and then like you get it.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's really cool, like attention to detail to do stuff like that just to like embrace what the characters or what the players themselves actually did as opposed to just being like these are things from cutscenes. So I really like that. And then of course the whole like lift off scene of it, which I thought was really like perfectly well done too, just going into like Ellie's head for a moment and then just like kind of getting out of it at the end. Just perfectly done. One thing I didn't write down here, but one thing I also did love was the inclusion of Pedro Pascal playing Future Days on the guitar in the beginning too,
Yeah.
which is really funny because you know if you the timeline of the show in the show the world ended in 2003, but Future Days is a song that came out in 2013, which is when the game ended like in the universe. So like it made sense for the universe of the game, but it's such an important song in the world of the game that you know like I feel like people don't even they won't even care if they use it in here. Like I like again, like no one's being like they used the song and they weren't, you know, the continuity wasn't right and all that. Like, no, it's just a really great song and a really great moment when Joel sings that song to Ellie
Mhm.
for her birthday. I just think that's a really great moment. And another perfectly nailed moment from the game I thought that they did that was just really great. And then my final one here is obviously we finally learned what happened with Joel and Eugene,
Yeah.
which is like the big you know the big kind of story arc I've been looking forward to all season, just because there's clearly like that one thing that's kind of left hanging in the air as far as like the little mystery that we hadn't had all season so far. And obviously why that change was needed for this show, because obviously in the game Eugene dies of natural causes, and we don't really have to worry about this kind of a whole thing. But in order to kind of change the aspects of like you know Ellie going all the way back to Salt Lake City to learn about what happened with the Fireflies and Joel and
Mhm.
all that, we kind of use this moment as kind of like seeing the way Joel lies to Gail in front of her face, and then him or you know Ellie realizing like, oh, that's what she did or he did to me, and that's kind of like the one way that she knew the entire time, and then they have that scene on the porch where she
Right.
finally has it confirmed, which I'm sure she knew all that time since, like you know that's why she was always pissed off at him for you know for the real reason, but you know just kind of hearing those words is a lot more vindicating, and I think that's what like, again like you said, like allowed her to kind of just be like, okay, I want to try to forgive you now. Like, cause at least like I heard you admit it. You didn't even
Right.
like, you know, you didn't try to lie to me again. So yeah, I really liked that change. I thought that was a necessary change to kind of blend those scenes together. Cause yeah, in the game that the porch scene is just them, you know, saying like I want to try to forgive you, like I don't want to have like this animosity basically. But the confrontation about what happened in Salt Lake happens like maybe a couple days or a year earlier or however long she's mad at him for at that point. So yeah, I think that was a necessary change when it comes to making changes from the game to the show, making things work in like a tight knit kind of a format. And yeah, just really well done writing. And that was the porch scene is probably the best acting scene of the entire show so far. So yeah, it's totally worth it to add those two scenes and just add another layer of emotion to it. And yeah, just a really great episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And did you also notice Joel's dad had a J
Mhm.
as his. So in my head, I was like, oh, his name's Jack. Like, this is like
Yeah,
no matter what, he's Jack Duquesne. But you know, his
that's
name in
funny.
this is Jack either way because he's got a
Yeah.
J. So like, I was just like, it's confirmed. Um, but
And it
yeah,
also kind of like again that whole thing when they were always worried about getting beaten by their dad and stuff. Again, brings me back to the therapy scene with Joel and Gail when when she's asked like, did you hurt her, and the way he reacts being like, no, I didn't hurt her, like it
Right.
all goes back to what in Joel's character, like, no, I would never do that, because again it goes like, I'm at least trying to do better than like the job that was done by his top before. And two, so I like the way they kind of play those things into it, because they're playing that into the character when they do the acting choices too. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool stuff that you can look back on and be like, oh, okay, now this all makes a lot of sense for the character, and like what's a lot of the choices that he makes and stuff. So yeah, it's really good character layering, I think they're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. You want to get to some predictions?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay. So, man, this is crazy because we only have one episode left here, and again, I watched the episode, previews that go on here, so I know where they're kind of leaning towards ending this season as far as like the timeline of the games go. There's you and I were talking before this, like without getting into like details of the actual scenes and stuff. Like the point that they're thinking about like stopping the season at, and like how they get there is going to be very interesting to see. The journey to the finish line exactly, because there's a lot still to uncover as far as the story goes. And we already know we're getting to season 3, but we were always kind of led to believe that this game was going to be, or the story is going to be told through 2 seasons only, and then they're going to be done with it. But now Craig Mason, one of the writers, the other head showrunner other than Neil Druckmann, is now saying that he thinks that the show is going to need like a 4th season to finish off the story. And I'm just thinking, like, if you've been formatting this whole like story out for how long you've been doing it and how long you've been writing the episodes, like you should have known this before that, right? Like you've been kind of like leaving it like, maybe we need another season after this too. Like, obviously because the end of the season's coming and they want to get that that buzz around the show going, because obviously season 3 is already confirmed, and we know they're probably going to go into production probably sooner rather than later for that to make it the next deadline. But like just the fact that they're already going to get people talking like we need more, like we need to extend this out, because like we kind of know that they're not going to be able to squeeze a good amount of the stuff in here in like it. Hopefully it's not like a 7-episode season. I think it's supposed to be more next season, but even then there's still a lot to get to,
Right.
and I feel like I can see in my head where they can cut off a 3rd season now and then finish in a 4th season now too, if they were to do that, because there is a lot to do, and you still want to stretch out certain parts of the game too. I feel like just to kind of flesh out either certain characters or just certain aspects of the game a little bit more. So yeah, I just think it's very, very interesting to see how they're, especially in this next episode. This finale is very interesting to me because hopefully it's not going to feel too rushed, but they're going to hit some pretty key spots here that aren't going to feel to like, how do we get here, I guess, right? So yeah, I'm very much looking forward just to see how everything wraps up, and yeah, it's gonna be very, very interesting to say the least, I think.
Yeah. So we watched the episode preview for the finale. Maybe it's because at this point we've had this happen with a lot of Marvel projects where they do throw in some red herrings in teasers and stuff like that. But I'm wondering if some of those scenes are red herrings. They're in there because they're happening in season 3. They're not happening next week in a hour plus finale type of thing, because they showed way too much. So I'm hoping. I'm hopeful that like some of those scenes that they put in that episode preview, we're not getting to, because like you said, I don't want to rush through certain events. I want, especially now that we're getting talk of a potential 4th season, I don't want to rush through some of the stuff that has to happen to get to the end, and then have a bunch of filler episodes in season 3 so that we can extend it for season 4 to get the plot points there. Like if we're really doing that, like let's hope the finale just, runs its course, and then, we get we get time for some of these bigger events that still have to happen. But it still leads me to believe that our theory that we've been talking about for like the last, or at least I've been talking about, I know we have been discussing off air about like for like the last 4 episodes about, get like the absence of Abby, basically.
Yeah.
And the theory that I keep bringing up that we've been talking about is, potentially getting Abby's point of view, of like going back a little bit and getting Abby's point of view at the start of next season. I think that's super legitimate, and it would be an easy way, like you were saying, to extend to a 4th season by kind of, we're going to relive the same time period now with Abby real quick. So like, I'm already thinking the start of season 3 can just be day 1 again, but now it's Abby's point of view. And then we get like first 2-3 episodes of just those events that's already happened, but we're seeing them through, Abby's eyes. And then, mid-season, maybe we get, whatever the clash is going to be at the end of the season. And then, from then on, maybe we jump between the characters, different episodes, or even in the same episode or something like that. And that's how we could get to a 4th season. And it wouldn't feel like filler, because it would really be, we're growing like with the game, we're going to see events from, Abby's perspective now, type of thing. And it's not filler, because we're actually going to see a different point of view of the same things happening. Now Abby's going to find out about her friends dying and you know what I mean? Like we're going to see all of this.
Right.
So I just think that would be a really cool way to do it. And I'm still on that hill of like, this is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping, we start season 3 with Abby perspective, and we kind of get more of that character, like with the video game when we jumped between the 2 perspectives. So that's what I'm hoping for. I don't know how the finale is going to end. Like I'm very confused by the recent, talk of potentially a season 4, which leads me to believe that we're not going to jump ahead too far. Because like I was saying last episode,
it's so hard to talk about without like diving into like specifics too, because there's certain events that need to happen. But there's also there's certain events that happen more than once too. Because again, like you talk about, because there's perspectives too, but you just don't know how they're gonna get to fill it. Because I also think if you do it to season 3, you can't have it solely be Abby's POV. I feel like, because again,
that's what I'm saying. Like
Bella
the first
Ramsey's
couple
like
episodes,
still the lead of the show too. So I wanted to, if they're gonna just sprinkle that, like they'll spread it out more between the 2. But like the way that she's been absent, like or Abby's been absent the last few episodes, I don't think they'll do that with Emma, with Ellie, unfortunately, which I think they should. I think it'd be kind of cool if you actually just dove in, just made Abby like your lead character going in the next season, and then you sprinkle in some Ellie appearances here and there or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
I don't think that you need to do it for like the whole season or anything, but the first 2, like 1 to 2 episodes, I just think that would be a cool, because it would be like, hey, this is like the game, boom, you're Abby now, like type of thing. And then, we jump back to Ellie.
Yeah.
So that's more what I'm thinking. But I think it's really going to give us a clue of what their plans are for the start of season 3, obviously, by what they get through in the finale next week. There's so much that has to happen to lead to some of the events that we got in the teaser. Like that's why I'm like so confused at what's gonna happen.
They clearly put some stuff out of order in there too, because I feel like we know some of the orders, some of the things happen, but when you see it done in the preview, you're like, oh, they showed that early, that part that's probably at the end pretty early or whatever it is. Like, like it's pretty crazy.
That's why
that's the misleading I feel like they're doing with some of the shots in the preview. I feel like is like, oh, this is gonna happen before. Like I feel like they think that trailers are like chronological, but they're not. They're usually not.
So I'm all jumbled. I'm excited for the finale. I am hopeful that we're gonna not rush some of the huge moments that still have to happen and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all leading to next week. We get the season 2 finale, and we figure out what season 3's, at least the beginning, is gonna look like. So
yeah,
but in the meantime, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 6? And what do you think is going to happen in the season finale? And what are you hopefully seeing in season 3? Like, what are you looking forward to seeing in season 3? Do you want to get some perspective from Abby for some key events and some episodes so that, it feels a little bit more like the game? We get a little bit more of this point of view of Abby and kind of get a little bit more, I guess, attached to this character before the end of, the show in general. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.